So you want to LS swap your car, but you're not sure which engine to choose. Do you go with the classic 5.7 liter LS1 or the tried and true 5.3 liter truck engine? I'm about to tell you all of the information you need to choose the right engine for your goals. We'll talk about power, cost, and all the other variables that you should consider when making a choice for your build. So first up, we have the first ever LS engine, the LS1. This all-aluminum 5.7 liter engine made a respectable 345 horsepower. It was found in 97 to 2000 Corvettes, 98 to 2002 Camaros and Firebirds, and the 2004 GTO. Next, we have the ultra-famous 5.3 liter LM7. This iron block engine came in 1999 to 2007 trucks and SUVs, and it made 295 horsepower and 335 foot-pounds of torque. There was also an aluminum variant, the L33, and that block saves about 80 pounds overall compared to the iron block. In most applications, 80 pounds isn't going to make a huge difference for you. If you're competitively drag racing or time attack, anything that you're super competitive, it's going to matter. But if you're a guy like me who's just racing on a budget, that 80 pounds is not going to be noticeable to you. There's also a 4.8 liter version of the truck engine, but you can get a 5.3 for almost the same price, so it doesn't really make sense to use a 4.8. The 6 liter variant, however, is a great choice. Another truck engine, the 6 liter was made in a 325 horsepower LQ4 or a 345 horsepower LQ9 option. The extra power in the LQ9 comes from it having flat top pistons, which bump up the compression. That's really the only major difference between the LQ4 and the LQ9. The LQ4 was found in 1999 to 2007 25 and 3500 trucks and SUVs. The LQ9 was found in Cadillac Escalades, GMC Sierra Denali's, and special editions of the Silverado. But that's enough about truck engines for a minute. Let's talk about the successor to the LS1. And no, not the slightly higher output LS6, which was basically just an LS1 with some slight upgrades. We're talking about the LS2. The 6 liter LS2 makes a whopping 400 horsepower and 400 foot-pounds of torque, over 50 horsepower more than the LS1. It makes that extra power thanks to increased displacement and higher compression, among a few other things. It can be found in 2005 to 2007 Corvettes, 2005-2006 GTOs, and 2006 to 2007 CTSVs. It also came in the 06 to 09 Trailblazer SS's and 05 and 06 SSRs, but good luck finding one of those in a junkyard. If you didn't think 50 horsepower was a big enough increase, well, neither did GM. Only 3 years after the LS2 was released, they launched the LS3. The 6.2 liter engine makes 430 horsepower and 424 foot-pounds of torque, a net gain of 85 horsepower over the LS1. That's almost 100 horsepower from half a liter of added displacement. The LS3 was available in 08 to 2013 Corvettes and 2010 to 2015 manual transmission Camaro SS's. Next up, the most powerful on the list, the 7 liter LS7. With almost an entire liter of extra displacement compared to the LS3, the LS7 makes 505 horsepower and 470 foot-pounds of torque. It came in 2006 to 2013 Z06 Corvettes, as well as 14 and 15 Z28 Camaros. Last on the list is the truck version of the LS3, the 6.2 liter L92. This 4th generation engine features variable cam timing and makes 403 horsepower and 417 foot-pounds of torque. It was available in 2009 and up Silverados, as well as multiple SUVs from that generation. There are countless other variations of the LS engine, but the ones I listed were the ones that I felt were worth exploring. Now that we know the options and their respective power levels, let's talk about cost. Prices fluctuate drastically, but I'll try to put up an average so you guys can get an idea, just a ballpark range for each engine. First, the 5.3 LM7 truck engine. You can get these anywhere from $500 to $900 or more based on condition, but the average one is going to be between $500 and $900. Then we have the 6-liter LQ4, which ranges from about $800 to $1,200. Then the LQ9, which ranges from $900 to $1,800. And then we have the first true LS option, the LS1. You can find them for $3,000 to $5,000, somewhere in that range. You're not really going to find them any cheaper unless there's something seriously wrong with it. And then the LS2 is a slight bump up. It goes for $4,500 to $7,000. The LS3 goes for $5,000 to $9,000. The LS7 goes for $15,000. And then we have the L92, the 4th gen truck engine. They go for $2,500 to $4,000, somewhere in that range. While the LS7 is the most powerful on the list, it's also the most expensive by a lot. I would say that makes it a terrible choice for any swap unless you have way too much money to spend and just want an LS7. Likewise, the LS2 and the LS3 are both also very expensive, and when you can make close to the same power out of an LQ9, I don't see it making sense to buy an LS2 or an LS3. The L92's variable cam timing can be more of a nuisance than a benefit. They do have aftermarket cams that you can put in those engines that delete the cam timing, but you still have a few other headaches if you were to swap a 4th gen L92 into any other car. But on top of that, the real question is the extra 50 horsepower from the L92 worth the extra $1,000 to $1,500 you would have to spend to buy one? The LQ9, for example, makes 50 horsepower more than the 5.3, and it's only a few hundred more. So I don't know that $1,000 to $1,500 is worth 50 horsepower. The LS1 makes the same power as an LQ9, but with mods due to the extra displacement of the LQ9 is more capable and can make more power than an LS1. That being said, you'd think the LQ9 would be the smartest choice, but first let's talk about accessories. Due to the fact that the truck engines come in trucks, they don't have a slim profile like the LS engines that are meant to be in cars have. The intake is taller, the alternator sits really high, and the oil pan sticks down really low beneath the car. This won't work in most cars, but if you're swapping your LS into a truck, then the LQ9 is the perfect choice for you. To make an LQ9 fit in a car, you can use a LS6 intake, that's about $500. You can get an accessory relocation kit for around $300, but then you need an F-body power steering pump, which is about $100, F-body water pump for another $100, and an F-body oil pan goes for around $200. So there's a minimum of $1,000 that you would have to put into an LQ9 to make it fit under the hood of most cars. If you're okay cutting your hood and you don't mind having your alternator sticking out of the hood, then that doesn't matter to you. It's the perfect choice. Otherwise, that brings the cost of an LQ9 to around $2,500. That's still less than the cost of an LS1, and it can make more power. So to me, it's the better option. But if you'd rather have an engine that's ready to go, you don't have to mess around with swapping all the accessories, putting an oil pan and an intake on it. If you just want something that you can throw in the car and get running, then the LS1 could be a good option. To wrap things up, let's compare the 3rd gen truck engine options. The 6 liters can make around 50 horsepower more than the 5.3, and you can find them for almost the same price, just a little bit more. If you want the most performance for your money, then definitely get the 6 liter. There's not a big difference between the LQ4 and the LQ9. Like I said, it's just the pistons and about 20 horsepower. So just get whichever one you can find a good deal on, unless you're chasing peak power and you really want the LQ9. If you're really not concerned about peak power and you just want to be in that range of 400 to 500 horsepower and you can find a 5.3 for a smoking deal, then get that. So to sum it up, the LS engines do make more power than the LM or LQ truck engines, but not enough for it to be worth the cost. If you're really worried about that 80-pound weight savings from the aluminum block, you could find an LS2 or an LS3 for close to the same price as an LS1, so I would definitely choose those versus an LS1. Or if you're on a tight budget but you really need the weight savings, you can get the L33 5.3 liter truck engine. But in my opinion, the best option for almost any swap is one of the two 6-liter truck engines, the LQ4 or the LQ9. The horsepower to dollar ratio is super high on those engines, and they're easy to find at any junkyard. With a cam, intake, and headers, the LQ9 can make 500 wheel horsepower through a manual trans. But let me know what you guys think is the best choice. If you think I'm totally wrong, drop it down in the comments. Until next time, bye!